Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Elevate Your A podcast. I'm your host, Chris McPeak, and today we are doing another hot seat coaching session. And my guest today is Hannah Weaver. Hannah is a fellow podcaster, and I want to say full-time student?
No.
No. Okay. So Hannah,
I'm an actor and singer.
actor and singer. Okay. Well, give us a little bit about your background. Where'd you go to school? What'd you study? What are you looking to do now? It's all coming back to me now from your email, but anyway, keep going.
Yeah, totally. So my name is Hannah. I'm a somewhat recent graduate from Lafayette College. I'm about 3 years out now. I majored in theater and psychology. I minored in Spanish. Unfortunately, I don't speak Spanish anymore. Sometimes I get that question. But I'm working in the theater industry. Working is a relative term currently during COVID.
Right.
But prior to this, I was working in the theater industry as an actor and singer.
And tell me about your show.
So I started a podcast during quarantine with my roommate. It's called GuyzRCrazy. That's Guyzr and then the word crazy.
I love it.
And we challenge gender stereotypes or kind of stereotypes in general as they pertain to dating and relationships. So we talk a lot about gender, some episodes about race, toxic relationships, kind of all sorts of things as they relate to dating and relationships.
Yeah, and that the gender and race stuff is kind of hot right now too, in terms of just big national events and stuff like that. So, how far along on your show are you?
We aired our first episode, I want to say late June. So we're a few months in now. It's been super exciting. We focus more on like individual experiences and less of bigger picture things, like things that are going on in the world. But it's always interesting for me to kind of learn about how these smaller parts fit into the bigger picture.
Yeah. Agreed. And then Lafayette, Louisiana, is that where you were?
Nope, Lafayette College in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Oh my goodness.
It's
wow.
a small liberal arts college. Yep.
Okay.
I was one of, I think, 5 theater graduates in my year.
You're kidding. Wow. So theater conservatory almost, right?
It wasn't a conservatory program. I got a Bachelor of Arts, but the school is more known for engineering actually. So I didn't choose it for its theater program per se. I chose it for its kind of general liberal arts education and college experience.
Okay. All right, cool. So was it always your goal in school to be an actress and work in theater?
It actually was not. So I have been doing theater my entire life. Yeah, I had grown up doing community theater and, middle school, high school, all of that. But it had always been a hobby to me. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life up until I think maybe junior year of college, when something clicked and I was like, well, why not try pursuing this professionally? Like, I've been doing it forever. I love it. I can't imagine myself not doing it. So why not? Like, while I'm young, after college, while I'm not really like, I don't have a family to support or things like that. I don't really have any like obligations aside from
you're still young and the sky is the limit.
Exactly. So I was kind of like, why not try it? So I'm a couple of years in now and it's going well. It's been great.
Tell me about some of the projects or roles that you've had.
Yeah, so I primarily, since I've graduated college, have done children's theater, theater for young audiences, TYA, and family entertainment. So I've worked for some great companies, like Feld Entertainment, Disney Cruise Line, 92nd Street Y, some like really wonderful companies. And I've always loved to work with children, so I kind of naturally veered my career in that direction. And I look young and I sound young, so it kind of all worked out in that way, to kind of combine my interests in that way.
Yeah. So, okay. So how did the loss of employment come to you? Because you said cruise line, Disney Cruise Line. So that made me wonder, like, did you have a gig on a ship and that ended abruptly, or how did that happen for you?
So I wasn't on a ship. Ironically, I had actually declined an offer to renew that contract because of completely unrelated reasons. So I was supposed to be on that ship, but
Wow.
I wasn't. I had turned down that contract way before COVID for other reasons, and but I was actually on tour with a touring children's show, and
Oh.
it was a van tour. We were driving around the country in a van, and we were in, I want to say, New Hampshire, in, it was like March 10th or 11th, maybe. It was
Mhm.
right around the time that everything started
Yep.
shutting down. And I remember we had like, I think like a 9 hour drive back to New York for a day off. And at the start of the drive, we had a full packed schedule for the next few weeks, until the tour was supposed to end late March. And then by the end of the drive, everything had been canceled
Wow.
within that like one drive. It was so surreal. So yeah, so I found myself back in my apartment, which I had subletted, kind of like, I don't know what to do next. I
Yeah.
had just gotten a new day job before before I had left on tour. I had just gotten a new job, and then been like, I'll be back in 2 months, expecting to come back to a bunch of hours and stuff like that. And then that shut down.
Okay.
So I found myself without a tour, without a day job, audition shut down, Broadway shut down. So it was like
Yeah.
all abruptly, like everything came to a stop,
So you're in New York
which was
City
so
right
weird.
now.
I'm in Brooklyn right now.
Okay. All right, cool. Do you like it?
Like during COVID
I've
times or in
I've
general?
heard so many neat things about Brooklyn. So I mean, yeah, I've
Yeah.
never been to New York, so I have no idea.
Oh, wow. Okay. Where are you located?
I'm in Southern California.
Okay. So I love New York's one of my favorite cities, and I've been to a lot of cities, and I keep coming back here. There's just so much going on all the time, and the people are, New Yorkers get such a bad rep for being like cold and unapproachable and like negative, and it's
That's
so
not true.
untrue. I like to say New Yorkers are, everyone is living in such close proximity all the
Yeah.
time, so we have such a respect for boundaries. So like if I'm walking down the street, I will ignore people, not because I don't want to talk to them, but because I don't want them to feel like I'm intruding their personal space.
Yeah.
Because by nature of the city, we're going to be in each other's space. So, but I think especially during this weird time, like it's it's such a feeling of community. Like everyone has each other's backs, which is
Yeah.
wonderful.
I love
So
that.
I do love it here. And I hadn't spent much time in Brooklyn before I moved here. I'd mostly been in Manhattan, but again, because like I stopped taking the subway and all of that, I was forced to explore my neighborhood and really like kind of bond with, become part of the community, which was,
Yeah.
has been great.
That's awesome. Okay, so the day job that you had secured before you went on tour, what were you doing there?
Yeah, so I like to only get day jobs. This is a totally me thing. Like I, no disrespect to anyone who does any other day job, but
Of
I
course.
personally only accept jobs that, where I can use skills that I would want to be using in theater. I like to feel really fulfilled in my day jobs, and if I'm not
Yeah.
performing, I need to like have that outlet. So I, in the past year or so, have been working at a lot of like pop-up museum type things, um, as like a brand ambassador type job. So
Okay.
I currently, so before all of this, I had just gotten a job at the Museum of Ice Cream in New York City, in Manhattan, and it had just opened, so it was super exciting. And then, of course, it shut down because museums could not be
A
open.
museum of ice cream.
Yeah, so
Oh my God.
we actually just reopened about a month ago. Super
Okay.
exciting. So I am back at work part time in
That's
that
good.
position.
Okay, so you like to be in front of people, demonstrating, teaching, acting, all of that. I'm not going to say like the attention, but that's where your skill is. Your skill is delivering to other people, and it's either a feeling, another skill, an experience, that type of thing, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. And then I guess on the long term, I mean, is acting where you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years? Yes, I think so. I don't know if in 10, hopefully in 10 years, I would,
Oh, I lost you there. Can you still hear me, Hannah? There, I see you again. You had froze up.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, good. You're
That's
back.
weird.
Okay. So you were talking about definitely in 10 years, you could see yourself, and then I lost you.
Yes. So in 10 years, I hope that my like personal goals of settling down, finding a partner, having kids, and my professional goals will have merged somehow. And
Okay.
I think it kind of depends. They depend on each other because if I have kids, I won't want to be taking cruise contracts per se.
Yeah.
But I think my career will continue to evolve, but I will never hopefully be in a place where I won't have theater in my life in any capacity. And again, I think that's kind of why I tend to take day jobs where I can still use those skills, because I'm always kind of shopping around for ways that I can like still use those skill sets and still be fulfilled in that performative way, but not maybe like be on Broadway.
Yeah. So I'm encouraged and curious about you wanting that the personal goals of having a family and your professional goals to intersect. So I guess are you hoping to meet somebody in the field so that you have the same vocation alignment? Or yeah, I mean, how do you see that panning out for yourself if you could just, snap your fingers and it's done?
I think about this so much, especially with a podcast on dating.
Great.
I I've said this on my podcast several times. I generally don't date actors, but I do think a huge perk to dating somebody in the field is that it's a lifestyle. And if you're in it, you understand it, and I think that's there's really something to be said for that. But I do tend to see myself with somebody who has a little bit more stability, not only financially, but like job security,
Sure.
a stable schedule, things like that I don't necessarily bring to the table. But at the same time, someone who understands that like that is the way things are in my life.
Yeah. So if you were to rank them, is family and partnership above career?
I want to say they're about even.
Okay. All right.
It fluctuates depending on the day, but I think in terms of long-term goals, like
Yeah.
short-term goals, I'm very much focused on my career. Um, long-term goals, I definitely see myself with a family, and I think if it boils down to it, family might be above career, just because I can see myself not pursuing like Broadway or like acting full time, as long as I can still maintain the arts in my life in some
Yeah.
capacity, but I can't see myself not having a family.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about arts in your life. So let's kind of brainstorm some other ways that could happen. Um, and just kick some stuff out. 'Cause I have some in my head, but I want to see if we're aligned there.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've been feeling very fulfilled artistically by having a podcast.
Uh-huh.
And it's not I think a new way of having an audience, but it's been really interesting to explore that, because it's like you guessed before, I love connecting with people. I
Yeah.
love talking to people, meeting new people, and it's been a wonderful platform to be able to do that. So I think that is definitely a new platform that
Yeah.
I've
Absolutely.
loved exploring. There's also the option of community theater. If I do end up in a more traditional career field with a more traditional schedule,
Yeah.
um, there's always the option of going to rehearsal after work and performing on the weekends, that sort of thing. So that's something I've definitely toyed with, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Have you thought about teaching?
I have. So I have taught primarily at like summer camps,
Okay.
or in workshop settings. It's not my favorite
Okay.
doing it full time. I love it. I love kids. But I found that I'm more inclined to teach part time or teach as an extracurricular. But for example, with my last tour, I was like teaching workshops in addition to performing,
Okay.
which I
And that
love.
felt really nice. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So there's definitely room for that, but I don't see myself pursuing teaching full time, which is interesting because in college it was definitely an option for me.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask, I wasn't even thinking, I mean, because obviously you said you felt attracted to younger people from an acting perspective, but I was actually thinking more in lines of teaching at community college, particularly as potentially an adjunct, and maybe not even in something in performing, but maybe in another aspect of the arts. I mean, your background is acting, but um, community college departments have all sorts of administrative positions and classified positions that would not be faculty, but it would be a way to connect to the arts. And I bring that up because I work at a community college, and I know that sometimes those jobs don't fill easily, and they tend to pay really well. I've heard so much about SUNY, no, CUNY, the city.
CUNY, City University of New York.
Yeah, yeah. My college is actually trying to duplicate a program that got started there, for underrepresented students, first generation students, and stuff like that. So I do know. Before I worked at a community college, I totally thought the community college is like that's the C team of academics, and that's for faculty members who couldn't make it at big schools, and that's for students who couldn't get into other schools. And I was completely wrong. I mean, some of the most dedicated faculty I've ever met in my life are at community college, and I think now that I know what I know about them, it's the education opportunity is so great because it's so affordable, especially if a student doesn't know what they want to do.
Yes,
Because to
yes,
spend all that money on a 4-year school or a private 4-year school, so it might not be a bad idea to just take a peek at um, what is it called? It's higheredjobs.com, and see if there's anything in your immediate area that's hiring either as a part-time adjunct position or like a classified coordinator or administrative job, because you have access to benefits that way, and then you could still pursue other things when that industry starts moving again. So that was the first thing that came to mind, and then the second thing that came to mind is I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm making a lot of assumptions here, but there's lots of other people living in New York City that are in the same boat that you're in, and I know that meeting in person probably, I mean, it's definitely not happening here. We're still virtual everything, but I'm wondering if there's meetups or groups that support groups that are together and able to talk about employment opportunities, talk about ways to make money while the theaters are still closed and everything is kind of funky. So that would be the other thing I would think could be something to do. But I'm very encouraged that your museum is open back up. So that's something, and it's great that you have a place to go, and that kind of stuff. So does any of that jive with you at all? Does it make sense?
yeah, definitely. That's a great idea. I wrote down that website. I'm gonna check it out.
Okay.
Thank you for that. There definitely are a lot of like Facebook groups,
Yeah.
online programming, virtual meetups, stuff like that going on within the industry, which I haven't been super involved in now just because I'm back at work part time, so that's kind of taken up some time, which is great. Um, but I was very involved back in like the peak of quarantine when like you couldn't go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah.
And it was really helpful because you're right, there's so many people who are in the same boat, from people who just graduated college who've never worked professionally,
Mhm.
people like me who are kind of still figuring things out, and then Broadway stars. Like everyone
Yeah.
is in it together, which has been really wonderful to feel that sense of
Yeah.
community and
Highly
help each other out.
impactful for sure. And then I had thought of something else in well, I coach everybody to, think about writing a book. That's not immediate income, but it's certainly, I think, we all have a story to tell, and the nature of self-publishing right now makes it so easy to make that happen. So as a performer, I think talking through what it was like to not perform during quarantine. And I think we're going to start seeing those types of publications coming out. But the other thing I wanted to say is that there's definitely opportunities to monetize your podcast, which you probably know because you're in Sheep Podcasts, and it's slow moving. But I do have some people that I will refer to you offline, because they're people that I work with too, and they've been really, really helpful for me in moving my show forward. And in fact, the whole reason that we're doing this right now is because I got a tip from a coach that I'm working with on that. So, and it made sense for me. It's like, yeah, this is totally a way to connect with potential clients and have really good things to talk about on the show. So that's just the tip out there. Anyone who's listening and you want to start a podcast and monetize it, this is a direction that you can go in. Are there any
Yeah, that would
other?
be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'll share with you my secrets. They're not secrets really, but um, anything else that you want to ask me or that you want to talk about?
I should have come up with questions. Let's see. I don't have anything that like comes to mind, but this has been really wonderful
Oh, good.
to
I'm so
to
glad.
chat and kind of get some clarity on my position.
Awesome. Well, we can reconnect anytime you want. You have my email address. And for those of you listening, I just want you to know that these hot seat free coaching sessions are available to you. Just check the show notes and you can sign up. So we have been talking to Hannah Weaver, and tell us again the name of your show.
It's called Guys Are Crazy. That's guys with a Z, the letter R, and the word crazy.
Guys Are Crazy, and you can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts. We will also put that in the show notes. Hannah, thank you so
Thank you.
much for popping in to Elevate Your Eight today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great.